I spent over $200 at a small local convention. Let's go over what I bought. All right, guys, I did go to a small local comic convention. I'm going to talk about what I picked up, my overall thoughts on the show, and a cautionary tale sprinkled somewhere in between. First, if you could, hit that subscription button if you haven't already. The notification bell will let you know when I post content. And of course, if you enjoy the video, hit that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, how I did about at this show. So without further ado, here's a small, quick 60-second kind of montage of the show floor. Again, a small local convention with only a handful of vendors that actually sold comics. All right, guys, so we are not doing music because a lot of people complained about it, but here is the show floor. I tried to get a good, give you a good idea of just how small this is, relatively speaking. I believe there was only about 4 aisles, not a tremendous amount of vendors. Here's one vendor to the right now. And you can kind of see the back. This is along that left wall. There were almost as many Funko toy sellers as there were comic vendors. Here's another one. And they were right across from each other, so I'm sure they were both happy with that. A lot of Funko, a lot of Pops. They did have some artists here. Not a tremendous amount. And here's a good shot at just a few of the vendors. Again, there were not a lot. Side by side. They kind of kept the comic vendors together, which I actually enjoy. I like that. Going to a convention, having all the comic vendors together, I think that makes it really easy. They do that at New York Comic Con. Granted, that's a much bigger show. And that was it for the vendors. I think there was like 4 or 5, maybe 6. Here was a smaller vendor down at the end. This was probably the only comic vendor that wasn't near the other ones. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was just the way they wanted the floor laid out. I'm not quite sure. And there was some miscellaneous vendors with miscellaneous stuff. And that's pretty much the show. Not a whole lot. All right, so there it is, a small, again, I cannot stress enough the size of this show, pretty small. They did have a couple classic wrestlers there, which were cool. As for guests, I wasn't exactly, there wasn't anything mind-blowing. Nobody there that just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go. Here's the problem with this show. And then I'll talk about my cautionary tale and what I got into. The problem with the show was that the ticket prices were atrociously expensive. This is the kind of show, I don't know if you could really get it from this little video I took. This is a small show. Should have been like a $10 ticket price. 15, pushing it, $15 ticket price, but okay, $15 would have been fine. The tickets to get into this thing were like $23 or something, just a random number, not even 20. It was over $20. I thought that was crazy for what you got. You could have walked the show floor in, if you didn't stop, you would have walked the show floor in like 15 to 20 minutes maybe. If you're stopping and looking at stuff, maybe an hour to an hour and a half. If you spent 2 hours there, it would have been, you were definitely taking your time. That kind of show, that kind of small event. So I thought that the ticket price was a little expensive. So let's go. My cautionary tale. So I've heard this several times from several people at several shows now. If there is something at a convention, I'm starting to realize, and I've heard this before, if there's something there that you want, buy it. Don't come back. Don't wait. Just get it. Because there were literally 3 books I was looking at one vendor, and I wasn't even happy with the vendor, I got to tell you, because some of his stuff was priced, some of it wasn't, and he was looking up prices on the fly. I want nothing to do with that person. If you're going to price out your books at the show, now sometimes you miss, there's not a price on something and you have to look it up. Okay, that happens. I get it. Maybe the price tag came off. Maybe you slipped it in without pricing it. Okay, that happens. You can't get too mad at that. accidents happen. It's happened to me that I've priced things and I just forgot to put a price tag on it, or it came off or whatnot. So that has happened to me before. So that's okay. This guy was looking up almost every freaking price. And I'm like, okay, this is I shouldn't have bought anything from this guy, but I did. But anyway, this guy, I went to this vendor. I saw 3 books on the wall that I wanted and I asked about, and I was like, you know what? Let me do a lap. Let me come back. And I wanted to buy something to make this video worth watching and to have something to really talk about. And I did. But I wanted to pick up the first Legion of Monsters. The guy had it. And when I got back, literally, I walked back to this guy, not to circle around this story. I go to this guy. I see 3 books. It was like the second Moon Knight. It was like the Legion of Monsters. There was something else. I don't know, 3 books. And I walk up to this guy after doing a lap. One dude on my right has a book in his hand that I asked for, and the dude on my left has the other book I asked for, and one of the ones that I wanted, I actually ended up purchasing. So I'm like, man, I should have bought these 3 books when I showed up in the first place. Instead, 2 of them go this way, and now I'm stuck with just one. I was able to find 3 books from this same vendor. And again, with him pricing books on the fly, I was not happy about it. So anyway, the 3 books I purchased are here. I spent a total of $220 on these 3 books. So first things first, the first one I picked up, Wolverine number 55. This is that old, I think it's Tale Suspense Story, cover swipe, Death of Sabretooth. It's a cover swipe and homage of an older cover. I forgot exactly what book. I think it's a Crime Suspense Stories book. There's that one. I picked that up. I picked up Marvel Spotlight 29. This is actually the second Moon Knight. Marvel Spotlight 28 is the first Moon Knight story. 29 is the next one. I picked that up, which I didn't really want. But again, the Legion of Monsters. And I think it was Marvel Spotlight 28 was the other book. It wasn't the second Moon Knight. It was the Marvel Spotlight 28. I was looking at that. And I said, all right, what's the next best thing after 28? 29. Here you go. I was okay, happy with the condition. I was happy with the price. He had a $30 price tag on that. And he had like a $12 price tag on the Wolverine. And the one book, I don't think I overpaid for this book, but I'm not doubling up my money like I normally do with collections, but I wanted something to talk about. And this is like a nice long-term spec book. And when I say long-term, even if this character ever comes, it's going to be long-term. And this was the 3rd book of the 3 books that I wanted from this guy. It was the last remaining of the 3. So I said, screw it. I got to pull the trigger. This is Thor number 225. This is the first Fire Lord. Fire Lord he is a herald of Galactus. With Galactus possibly coming to the MCU, speculators are kind of focusing on the heralds, Silver Surfer, Terrax, Nova, Fire Lord, characters like that. So I said, I don't have a Fire Lord in my speculation box. I may not even hold on to this. I may just turn around, flip it, put it on my own wall and sell it someday. Maybe an auction, maybe something like that. I don't know. Very disappointed in the price tag of everything. Again, I spent $220 and then I spent like 20 something dollars on the tickets to get in. And that was disappointing. So I spent just under $250 on the entire, and $4 parking. That was my mistake though. So it was about $250 in the hole for this whole little trip that took me about an hour to an hour and a half. I ended up going with Ryan, my buddy, the artist, Ryan Brown. Now with all that being said, my next convention that I'm actually selling books at is a small convention. And I think the price to get in is like 10 or 15 bucks. And it's nothing but vendors selling comic books and a few Funko comic book mixed vendors. That's all that's in there. This is King Con down in Clark, New Jersey, Saturday, September 25th. It's a 1-day show. And it's wall-to-wall comic book vendors. No fluff, no anything else. That's all you're getting. I am really excited for that. And I'm just... After going to this small show, this small convention, and knowing what's around the corner, I'm like, man, if we could put together a show like that, like King Con down in Jersey, somewhere local to me, I think it would do a really good job because the attendance for this convention was, I was surprised how many people were there because I didn't think there would be this many people there. Not that it was wall-to-wall people, not that it was packed, not that it was crazy, but I was still surprised at the number that showed up. So again, Saturday, September 25th. I'm really looking forward to this convention. I'm setting up. I'll have a nice booth. There's going to be nothing but comic book vendors there. Super excited. Clark, New Jersey, Saturday, September 25th at the Holiday Inn. That's it for this video. Again, I spent just under $250. The name of the convention, Mid-Hudson Comic Con. It was held at the Poughkeepsie Civic Center, Poughkeepsie, New York, or the Hudson Valley Civic Center. I don't even know what it is. It's the Civic Center in the city, Poughkeepsie. Subpar, overpriced tickets to get in. That's the biggest takeaway. That, and if you guys are going to future conventions and you see a book, you may want to pull the trigger right away. Because again, that is not the first time this has happened to someone where you want a book. This is what you're going to do. You're going to buy it. Hold on. Let me walk around, get find it somewhere else, get it for cheaper. You come back and it's gone. So it's happened to me. It may have happened to you. I'd love to hear your stories on something like that. Maybe some of your local conventions. Leave a comment down below. Sometimes these smaller conventions are where you find these good deals, or maybe the oddball book you're looking for. Unfortunately for me, I was left in the dust. So just 3 books I picked up. And thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. And that's it. So if you could, remember, keep it comics.